In the previous two episodes, we highlighted the importance of taking time for self-reflection and meditation. Today, let's start from the very beginning, our beginning. Let's start from where all things originate. Let's start with God. Discussing God is a vast and profound subject. So where should we begin? Let's start from the very essence of it all, the existence of God. The majority of the world's population, in theory, believes in the existence of God. We don't know the depth of this belief in everyone's mind, but most of the planet holds this belief. When we mention the word God, we must realize something very important. All of us, you, me, and every believer in the existence of God. When we talk about God, we are discussing a philosophical idea in our minds. This means that we are incapable of comprehending the true essence of God. We are inherently unable to grasp the true nature of things. As we learn and science advances, we continuously discover that our understanding is limited, revealing ever deeper layers and new horizons to explore. The idea that we claim to understand the true nature of God is, frankly, a fallacy. Yes, humans might be the most intelligent of all living creatures, or so it seems. But when it comes to a concept as vast as God, we are nothing. We cannot truly comprehend the essence of God. Instead, our minds create a concept of God. When we were children, we might have imagined God as an old man with a white beard holding a magical staff, living above the skies, or as a great light in the heavens. As we grow, we shed these childhood fantasies and start forming a more philosophical idea of God. If we examine ourselves and the people around us and how they relate to the concept of God, we will find variations. Some fear God, some love God, some are inspired by the idea of God, and some feel the grandeur of God. These are all different ways of understanding who God is, shaped by our minds and influenced by the system we live in, the inputs and the values we were raised with. We must grasp this crucial point. We do not know the true nature of God. Instead, we hold a philosophical concept of the essence of God within our minds. To understand the term God, since we do not possess true knowledge of God's essence and only hold a philosophical concept as we explained earlier, what do we mean when we say God in simple terms? What is common among most who believe in the idea of God? Simply put, God consists of three pillars. 1. God is the source of creation, the one who willed the universe into existence. 2. God is the one who established the order of the universe. 3. God is what everything ultimately returns to. Even if the universe were once the size of a pinhead and then expanded in what we call the Big Bang, imagine the one capable of returning it to its original state of pinhead or making the entire universe vanish. Whether it remains or disappears, all of this falls within the concept of God. Now, let's discuss the second point. God is the order giver. Let's take a quick look at the concept of order. The human being has a vital system that maintains its temperature, a digestive system, a respiratory system, a glandular system, etc. Each individual's body coordinates all these internal systems and synchronizes them with external systems. Similarly, the environment as systems, the climate as a system, then the planet, the solar system, and the galaxy, and all these countless systems work harmoniously together. In my personal view, the one who established this order is God, who created systems that operate autonomously. For example, the system that determines your appearance. I don't believe God designed each person's face individually, but rather created a system capable of doing so. There is a method, a system, her genes or chromosomes from the father combine with those from the mother to form you, perhaps resembling an aunt or uncle or grandparent. I believe God operates through this system. Your heart. I don't think God commands each heartbeat, but rather created a system that allows your heart to beat continuously until you intervene and disrupt this system. Similarly, nature has its own system. Some places suffer from drought, and believers pray to God for rain. Perhaps God answers their prayers and rain falls. However, I don't believe God directly moves the clouds to make it rain. Likewise, when a hurricane strikes a place, I don't think it's God's anger at the people there, sending a hurricane to destroy them. While it's possible and within God's power, I believe it happens through a system God has established. There is a way the planet moves, a way the climate behaves, resulting in weather changes. This is why humans can predict weather patterns. The same applies to other creatures. Did you know there are at least 350,000 species of beetles on Earth? I don't think God created 350,000 beetles individually, though He is capable of it. Instead, through the system of creation, this number of beetles can be produced based on certain conditions. Similarly, God did not design each butterfly, but the creation system He established can produce this diversity of butterflies. And at this moment, as we discuss the existence of God, there's an important milestone in this narrative that involves Charles Darwin's theory of evolution, presented over 150 years ago in his book, The Origin of Species. Darwin had a profound passion for biology and embarked on numerous voyages to study various living organisms, birds, insects, and animals by dissecting them. During one of his journeys, he visited a group of islands now part of Ecuador in Latin America. There, he discovered unusual forms of life due to the isolation of these islands. He found familiar animals, but with different shapes and colors, as well as different stages of evolution, adapting to their new environment to ensure their survival. For instance, it was well known that the yellow desert chameleon camouflages with the desert sand. However, Darwin found green chameleons adapting to the color of plants, and even a new type of chameleon capable of swimming to move between islands. This continued with other creatures that evolve from their familiar forms to adapt to diverse environmental conditions. This sparked the idea of Darwin's theory of evolution. To simplify, this evolution means that genes in living organisms either recede or emerge as needed to adapt to their environment. This doesn't mean that the gene disappears entirely, but rather that it recedes and remains as a trace in the DNA of the organism, allowing it to adapt to new conditions based on the environment. Some consider Darwin's theory one of the most significant theories in human history because it explains something crucial. Yet, it doesn't necessarily mean the theory is universally accepted or rejected. However, we all know that this theory is indeed a reality based on biological sciences and our understanding of them. We are all aware that not all living organisms were created simultaneously, and it's illogical to believe they were all created in an instant. Moreover, fossil studies prove that not all creatures were created at the same time. Additionally, Earth's history includes 5 massive extinction events where life almost vanished, leaving only some single-celled organisms from which new life emerged. Darwin's theory states that all living organisms on Earth, whether on 2 legs or 4, originated from marine creatures. Furthermore, advanced DNA studies have shown a genetic link between humans and plants. So what happened to Darwin's theory? Humans tend to believe what aligns with their personal convictions. As an individual, be you Jewish, Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, Hindu, or of any other faith, you initially received teachings from your parents and began to shape your personality. Subsequently, any information you encounter is filtered by your mind to fit your personal ideology. Naturally, the human mind resists accepting information that is inconsistent or contradictory. In the context of Darwin's theory, some non-believers interpreted it to mean that there is no need for a theory to explain the existence of God. Nature created itself. Conversely, believers saw Darwin's theory as evidence of God's power to create organisms from one another in a marvelous and unique harmony, from a single source from which all creatures emerge. This phenomenon is intriguing. Even you interpret things according to your beliefs. Here lies the cognitive bias that the human mind frequently falls into because it defends its beliefs and what it holds to be true, making it easy to fall into a simple error. The simple error is this: what is the relationship between the evolution of organisms from one another and the existence of a universe with or without a creator? Darwin's theory did not prove the existence of a creator, nor did it disprove it. It merely explained how organisms evolve from one another. The question of the creator's existence is a separate matter, unrelated to Darwin's theory. However, the topic of creation raises the question of whether there is intent or purpose behind creation. If nature has intent or a goal in creating life, that is another matter. Those who believe that nature has intent or a goal behind creation are welcome to do so. Personally, I believe in the intent behind creation, evidenced by the design present within the vast systems from the smallest atom and subatomic particles to the photons of light and the billions of systems within and around us. All believers claim to know that if there is design, there must be a designer, and thus there is intent behind it. Meanwhile, non-believers argue that nature creates itself without the will of any purposeful intent. This is not the subject of our episode, but we are pointing out the importance of understanding that what you believe with your mind is just an action performed by the mind to align with the first thing it accepted. It's like laying one brick, then another, and then another, until something happens that shatters everything you've built, forcing you to start anew and reconstruct your beliefs and ideas to fit the new convictions. A non-believer might look at Darwin's theory and say, "Do you see? All the creation stories of Adam and religions are nothing but falsehoods because they don't align with Darwin's theory and reality." This is a major dilemma. If we assume Darwin's theory is true, or at least that recent scientific evidence supports it, then thank Darwin for showing us how organisms evolve from one another. But, as mentioned, this does not relate to the existence of a creator. It is about what you believe and how you try to make it fit with your convictions. Moreover, when discussing the story of Adam and its connection to religions and the theory of evolution, it is indeed a big and complex issue because, simply put, you do not know. Neither you nor anyone else knows the connection between the story of Adam and religions and Darwin's theory of evolution. Not knowing is not a problem. You, as a being, don't know anything. You don't know what will happen in the next 30 seconds. We have lived through 20,000 years of documented history, and despite all recorded science, we discover new things every day that prove we know very little. You do not know when you will die or what will happen after your death. To stand firm and assert that something does or does not exist based on a belief is unwarranted. You should be cautious and patient with your mind. You are the keeper of its secrets, so you must be thoughtful. I am not imposing or dictating that you should believe in something. The topic of belief is profound. However, be cautious when you believe the stories you hear to avoid making mistakes that do not align with everything you know and are certain of. It's about logic. Take the Big Bang Theory, for instance. Whether the universe was once the size of a tennis ball or came from a pea-sized point or something else entirely, it doesn't concern me. Whether the Creator intended it to be that way or not is another matter. Finally, let's touch on the matter of belief and religion. The religion you were born into and built upon is something that can be questioned. You may choose not to believe in it, because religion is something bought by the mind that believes in anything. You may believe in religion with your mind, but faith is something that does not happen through the mind, or so I see it. Imagine that within you there is something we'll call the heart. The heart is a part of your internal system that believes in God. Personally, I believe that every person living on earth has a heart that knows God. However, if your mind is fed with ideas contrary to what your heart believes, It will cover up what your heart believes, and this is what is called disbelief or covering. Your faith might be covered by your mind when it believes things and trusts in itself and its understanding, or when you take yourself too seriously, imagining that your knowledge, power, and influence are greater than anything. You might consider yourself the measure of truth, capable of evaluating and including things. If you doubt the existence of God, that is your right. If you do not believe in religions, that is also your right. If you do not sense God within you or feel that your internal system does not recognize God's existence, then you do not have to believe. However, when asked about the existence of God, simply say, "I do not know." Do not assert that God does not exist, because you simply do not know. None of us truly know. From the most knowledgeable to the least, from those with the greatest intellect to those with the least, we are all in a state of ignorance about many things. We all know very little. Let's conclude this episode here. I hope you will reflect deeply on what we have presented. See you all in a new episode, hopefully in good health. We're glad you made it this far. If our video ignited something within you, we're honored. Join our Javan Rusa community to explore more and be part of our journey.